All right, Jules, I want to start with the Bernal injury because, match day one, you see the lineup. I was wondering who they're going to play. And man, it's two guys named Marc from La Masia, Bernal and Casado. Bernal has kept his place on the team. He was one of three 17-year-olds that were starting together with Kubarsi and obviously Yamal. I'm wondering now in that area of the pitch. I mean, given how well he's done, I think Flick was saying, okay, he can be part of the rotation. I am wondering in terms of numbers, do they need to revisit this a little bit going forward? Can you get by with, I mean, unless I'm forgetting somebody, and correct me if I am, I don't have the squad in front of me, but you're looking at De Jong, Pedri, Casado at this point.
Yeah.
Is there somebody I'm forgetting?
No. I mean, Christensen played there obviously last season, but now he's also injured himself,
but he's injured
so he
now
can't even step up from the defense to go and help out. So you're right. It looks a bit light, and also Gavi can play there, but it's not the same profile as Bernal. Even De Jong to a certain extent is different, and you would think that Flick would use De Jong not as the holding, not as the six, not as the deeper of the two central midfielders. So Romeo was left, and he was never good enough for this level. We said that many times last season. Not just even what he did in the Clásico, for example, but overall he was just not good enough. So, could you go?
Eric Garcia?
Sorry,
Eric Garcia.
Yeah, I guess maybe. The less I see Eric Garcia, the better I am. So I don't know, but the problem is, Gab, you're right. He might have to be one of those solutions because they can't go out and spend 10, 15 million. So maybe get a loan, but at this stage of the transfer window, it's probably quite difficult. And that injury to Bernal at the last minute of the 10 minutes of added time in the Rayo game. So I don't know, even if the game had been a bit shorter, probably he would still be fit and with them. It's a real shame because he did well in preseason. Then he took his chance, and credit to him when Flick started him in La Liga. For someone so young, it was really impressive. So it's a real shame. And now you're right, for the weekend, you already wonder what kind of tinkering Flick will have to do to make that midfield performing.
Yeah, look, and it's funny because there's a cohort of Barcelona fans who think that, we hate the club when we point out their difficulties and the issues Laporta's had. And like I said, I think Laporta has made the situation worse. I think if Laporta had just said, look, we're in a terrible situation financially. This is what I inherited from Bartomeu. We're going to belt tighten and go as kids for a couple seasons. We're not going to go and spend. Instead, obviously, he decided to go pull the levers, commit a lot of money to the signings that we know about that sort of came and went. Even the free agents, even Marcos Alonso, people like that. Obviously, Lewandowski, the big one, Rafinha, Ferran Torres, all these guys. Right? He said, "Oh, this is necessary." I don't think it was necessary. I think you could have been more judicious, and then you might not be in as bad a situation right now. You might not have won La Liga either, which is fair enough.
Yeah.
But you'd be in a better position vis-a-vis the future. Given it's La Masia, I always feel like somebody can pop out. You're right, though, when you said before that, De Jong shouldn't really be playing defensive midfield. But there's no option, right? If there's not De Jong, it's Pedri. Otherwise, you get into Casado or you said Eric Garcia. I think Fermin Lopez, again, more perhaps of an attacking midfielder type, even when he plays centrally, right? So, given the amount of competitions that they're in, I think it's really going to be a challenge for Hansi Flick. And bear in mind, too, that the style of football that Hansi Flick wants to play, I think the directness, the intensity, that's also more physically taxing on the players. It takes a lot out of them. So I don't think it's going to be tough for Hansi Flick. But what's encouraging is I think he's handled himself very well with the media so far. The players seem to be on board with it. The players seem to be committed. And look, ultimately, and I say this in the nicest possible way, it's La Liga. It would really have to be a disaster for you to finish outside the top four. Nobody believes it's going to, even really to finish outside the top three. Nobody believes it's going to happen, right?
No, definitely not. I mean, just to finish on the number 6 position, etc. I think Casado, who was on the bench against Rayo, will start at home against Valladolid at the weekend. And then after that, you've got the international break, and then you can reassess what you can do, see where the injured players are, how far they are to coming back. And if you really feel right now that you're too light, then you've got still a couple of days to go and try to get someone on loan, But yeah, you're right. They will finish top 4. It's just a question of how far can they push Real Madrid, of course, and their competition with Atletico, I guess. But what we've seen so far, I think is really encouraging even from Flick, to come to a different country after the last few years who haven't been great for him, between the sacking for Germany, then waiting for another club, then taking charge of this Barca team with all the issues that you've just mentioned, which can't be easy, but he feels really positive. I think he's always been, well, a positive guy anyway, but he feels like really positive. And they've got that momentum. They've got the momentum in preseason. Remember that Clásico win? I know it's only a friendly match, but it's still a Clásico. And the fact that they played well with some youngsters, Pau, Victor, all of that, blah, blah, Casado, Bernal, as we said. And then to have Dani Olmo, almost like he had to wait and could only play him in the third game. But like this is such a bonus to have him now.
Yeah.
He's maybe not fully match fit, so he might not start at the weekend, but just come on again to get a bit more minutes. But from what we saw in half an hour against Rayo was really, really good.
I mean, look, I made the point. This is also on paper not the easiest start to the season. Okay, Valencia have been terrible, but Valencia away, not a great place to start.
And they went behind.
And they had to come up from behind, as you said. I don't think they've necessarily put together a 90-minute performance, but in the periods when they've been good and they've been clicking, they've been super dominant, and I think that's encouraging. I think I made the point at the weekend against Sevilla. Fermin Lopez was the second most experienced outfield player on the Barcelona bench, and he's made 14 league starts in his career. And the most experience was Eric Garcia, who you'd probably tell me shouldn't count. So it's really uphill, but they're coping with it. They're dealing with it. I wonder, when you wonder sort of what moves they can make. I mean, the window closes as we record this, in less than 36 hours. I'm wondering if maybe you get on the phone with Uncle George and you say, hey, look, can we find a home for Ansu and maybe free up some funds to, even if it's a loan, maybe free up some funds to bring in another option in the middle of the park. I think that might be something that certainly I would try to work on if I were Barcelona, just simply because, leaving aside all the ups and downs with Ansu Fati and the fact that he makes a lot of money, I of all the sort of the winger types that Barcelona have, he's probably the one that least fits. I don't know if you agree with this. Least fits what Flick wants to do. So maybe there's some wiggle room there to generate some extra funds. But yeah, they got to move quickly. And I say, and it's a shame given how exciting the youngsters have been and how quickly the players who are there have said, right, we're going to get on with it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, what I've been really happy with, and Lewandowski's goal was disallowed for that Koundé foul at the start of the move. It's a shame. It's the right call. It's a bit of a shame, but his finish was still really sharp and really good. And last season we spoke about Lewandowski and, maybe feeling the fact that at 35 going on 36, it was getting towards the end, and maybe considering how big his wages were, that Barca could let him go and free some money that way, and that he could go somewhere else, either back to Poland, maybe to MLS. I don't know, anywhere he wanted. He stayed. He really wanted to stay. He's a massive asset for this club in terms of how much they're paying him. But I have to say, in the 3 games so far, he's looked much better than I expected him to. And I guess Dani Olmo coming into the team will bring even more to Lewandowski in terms of having that support around him, creating chances for him, creating space for him. All of that, I think, would benefit Lewandowski massively. So that's also, I think, one of the good news for Barcelona at the start of the season, because Flick, how would he adapt? Great so far, 3 wins in 3. The youngsters, okay, Bernal is a shame, but they've done really well. Even the Jules Koundé has been outstanding, maybe Barca's best player so far this season. Lamine, great. Dani Olmo coming in, great. Even Rafinha has looked sharp despite the Copa America. And a lot of those players, by the way, were busy this summer. But for Lewandowski to have hit the ground running straight away, to look really, really good, really sharp, with the ball, without the ball. Maybe the arrival of Flick and somebody who speaks the same language as him, as in like kind of helped massively, and someone that he knows so well, with whom he won a lot before. Maybe that was just what he needed as well to kind of not resurrect, because he was not over last season, but last season was not a good season overall for somebody like him. That's what he needed to be even better this year.
Yeah, look, last point, I agree with you. Last point I want to make about this, and I hate going back to Laporte and its levers, but if Gundogan were still there, I think they could even think potentially of challenging, right? If everybody stays fit, whatever. And yet they had to sacrifice Gundogan to bring in Dani Olmo. I mean, I think this is when we talked about before, and I'll have a column coming up on this about the financial restrictions and so on. Not just at Barcelona, it's extreme, but I think it's around football as a whole. And it's part of the reason why, you can't just sell Ansu Fati from one day to the next. Why Lewandowski leaving, unless he was willing to take a massive pay cut and cancel his contract, was just never going to happen. It's because right now we're going through this big correction in the world of football. And at Barcelona, it became so extreme that you literally had to give away a guy who was one of your best players last season in Ilkay Gundogan for nothing, just so you could register another player. Which, just think about how absurd the situation is.